must deny an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. And I think it does, because if the trip doesn't happen, the attacker would have been able to make a turn and shoot on goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Phil Lavanco. Welcome to Under Review, the most controversial show in the Major Arena Soccer League. And back from London is the head of officials for the MSL, Ryan Cigich. If you came to the show for the Kansas City Utica game, you're going to be disappointed. We won't review any of the plays. The DRC already made their rulings, and quite frankly, we just don't have anything to add to the situation. And if you're still with us, we're in Monterrey for the game between the Flash and the Baltimore Blast. Ryan, we've got an extremely controversial one here. In overtime, Jeremy Raley appears to have taken down Gennaro Castillo in the box. It goes to review, and it is determined a penalty kick for the Flash that ends up winning the game for Monterrey. Ryan, there's a lot going on here. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, there is, Phil. I don't think it's that controversial, actually. This is a penalty kick. And when you have a penalty kick, you also must have a blue card 2-minute power play. And what happens here is the Monterrey attacker receives the ball, and then he's tripped with Raley's right foot. And then there's a secondary deliberate action of a pretty forceful kick with his left leg. And we've talked a few times now under review that you must have at least one of two criteria for a penalty kick, and both are met here, in my opinion. Must deny an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. And I think it does, because if the trip doesn't happen, the attacker would have been able to make a turn and shoot on goal. And then secondly, the level and severity of that secondary kick, it's pretty forceful, and it meets the criteria of a blue card. And yes, Phil, this is overtime, but refereeing is about to make tough decisions.
So even with his back turned to goal, you think he would have turned and scored?
Well, I think you make a good argument there, but I still think he got a chance to.
In Texas now for the game between the Outlaws and Tacoma Stars. Ryan, we have a too many men on the call review here from Tacoma, and I think this is just unfortunate by the Outlaws. The ball is near the bench, and it hits a player trying to get off.
Yeah, interesting play here on this line change. And when we think about the too many men, the question you have to answer is, does the team gain an advantage? And when the ball's in the vicinity of the benches, it greatly increases the likelihood that an advantage was gained. So in this case, you see that Ortiz is coming onto the field at the same time Uzi is exiting. And before Uzi's off the field, he's hit with the ball. And then his line mate coming in, Ortiz, is already on the field, who then gains possession and then scores. So this is too many men. The referees had no option in this case. Had the ball not been in the vicinity of the benches, I think this would have been fine, if the fact that the player entering was on just a little bit early, because they would have had no impact.
It's an unfortunate play, and I understand if the Outlaws fans are frustrated by the decision. And one more from this game, and Ryan, I think this is a classic example of good use of replay and review on this one. On game angle, it looks like it hits our hero Cory Keats in the arm, but when we see the angle from behind the net, in my opinion, it looks like it hits his shoulder and not his arm.
You are correct, Phil. This is not a handball. Cory's arm is in a natural position, and the contact is along that upper boundary of the arm to the bottom of the armpit. That's how FIFA describes it. For me, I just like to call it your t-shirt line. But this is a good non-call here by Grady and Clem.
Couple of plays here from the Dallas Sidekicks versus the Harrisburg Heat. Ryan, this is a really interesting one as the Sidekicks keeper tries to keep the ball in the penalty area, even though his feet are clearly out. This must have been a tough one for the officials.
Angles are very, very tricky, Phil. And in this play, you see the main camera view, you would think without a doubt that ball was outside of the penalty area. However, looking at the camera angle from behind the goal, the ball isn't even close to being outside of the penalty area.
And Ryan, just for anyone out there who doesn't know, it doesn't matter where your feet are, correct?
Yeah, Phil, that's not relevant. It's all about where the ball is.
Ryan, one more from this game. A blue card is given on the Sidekicks player for this one. Misses him on the first attempt, but it looks like that follow-through clips him and takes down the Heat player.
Yeah, another play here where we have one of these referred to as a secondary action. In this case, a Dallas defender. You see, once he's on the ground, he deliberately brings his right leg up and kicks the Harrisburg attacker. A pretty good amount of force there. No play on the ball. So good call here for the blue card by the referees there, Butler and Chesky.
Last one for the show, Milwaukee versus St. Louis. And Ryan, we've got a wild one during an end-of-game shootout here. St. Louis thinks they've scored a goal. The Milwaukee bench challenging the spot of the ball before it's even placed. Ryan, is this something we can even review?
No, short answer is no. And I mean, what a way to end just a great entertaining game. But just a few things here, Phil. This should have never gone to review. I mean, the provisions for a rules error review is clear that it must have a direct impact on the outcome of the game. And ball location is not a major rules error. So, the fact that the ball appears to be maybe an inch past the yellow line, that has no impact on the fact of whether or not the shootout attempt was successful. And that also the shootout should not have been whistled until the ball was properly placed.
And that's it for this week's episode of Under Review. Ryan, aren't you glad you're back from your trip?
I think I'm going back to London.
If you have a play out there that you want us to review, hit me up on Twitter _HeyYoPhil. That's Ryan Cigich. I'm Phil Lavanco. We'll see you next time on Under Review.